Cherry. No E in the twisted. YouTube as well.
Oh, before.
No E in twisted.
And if you want, we can step in the hallway over here. It's got better light, and I will be able to. Yeah, so it's gonna be youtube.com/ baby arms. I don't know who's live, but hello. So would you like to hold the other one? Say hi back to whoever's watching. I don't know who it is.
Alright.
The fans that showed up.
I don't know how Kim was wanting to join.
I'm not. This is so you can hear me and hear her
Let's
questions.
see. I'm going to quickly jump to her page and see if she has a YouTube link, and then if not, then maybe we can just start answering questions. I found her profile, but I don't see that she's doing a live or anything right now.
It's on YouTube.
Same. I subscribed though.
They'll get it.
It's on YouTube. So
I'm enjoying getting to just look at Joy.
someone's logged in already. Can someone share the link?
And I'm
Whoever you are, just send it. Send it.
amazing brooch that Kim made for the writer. Oh, it looks so good.
Yeah, she
You did an
would.
awesome job, Kim. Yeah, you really did, Kim. These look great.
I can't wait for everyone to have them.
Excited to get theirs.
Don't forget, you're on camera. This is a reality show.
What did you guys do this week, Natalie?
Okay.
Just kind of playing catch up.
Let me just pack up this failure of a projector.
This morning.
I'm telling you, this is so annoying. I'm just going to have to sell this and get a different one.
Finished the art book. That's been sent off to Kristen and her agent. And so they are going to go through it and make sure that it's
Freya is trying to pull a move that the projector pulled on me. Okay, so we're going to move to the light where everyone can see better, and then I will get to her. Yes, that would help immensely in here. Let there be lights backstage. Let's go up here to the table. It's like a little mini panel in a hallway. We'll call it the closet panel. You guys will be my panel guests.
So that's kind of what I've been working on this week. With a few miscellaneous projects here and there, catching up on photos,
separate like that.
that sort of thing.
And
What about you?
whoops, I dropped you.
Mostly baby. But also, actually, I just scheduled, in regards to the Green Rider Project, I just scheduled the recording dates. So I'll be up there in Utah on May 29th, May 30th, May 31st, June 1st. Those are going to be the recording dates. So that's going to be really exciting. So I'm going to be taking all the pictures
There, try
and
that. See
sending
if that
that
works.
to you guys. So it's going to be super cool. I'm excited for you to start sending us updates and for the Kickstarter live thing. Oh yes, yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about it, and I think maybe I'll have you guys do I'll have a poll and see what you guys want to listen to most.
Go to YouTube.
Whether you want to listen, because we're going to be recording in sections. We'll be recording string and harp together, and then we'll be doing woodwinds one day, brass another day, choir another day. So I'll maybe put up a post to see which ones you guys most want to see, or if you want to just see all of them, and then I'll do little clips of each.
That's right,
Thanks for
Catherine.
joining, guys.
Okay, and
Dustin Turner.
are you married? How old are you?
26. Yeah. I just had a birthday.
Catherine
Maybe
and
we should start answering questions.
USTAN.
Yeah, let's start. Yeah, we'll do that while we kind of see if we can. Because, yeah, we're trying to connect to the YouTube page, but it isn't really pulling up
it's
for,
live
like,
again.
your channel does. It pulls up, and it shows that you have a live feed, but we can't access it. Yeah, I don't even think that she has a live feed going on, so. Yeah, you're first, but I am. Okay.
So I'll pull up the
Sorry.
thread because I know
This is why
some
I
people had
didn't
already
bring the
put in
sword
some
with me.
questions.
Used it.
And again, reminder, if you guys have any questions that are attending through the Facebook Live,
Maintain the captain.
feel free to pop them in the Facebook
close
Live
the door and
chat,
scream.
and we'll be checking that.
I don't blame you.
Okay. So, and Kim says Catherine and Dustin Turner are with her. So hi, Catherine and Dustin. Okay. Let's see. First question. Let me make sure I'm starting at the beginning.
Any
Okay.
questions you want me to type in?
It's for Christina. So DeLacy is asking, which song did you find the most difficult to write, and then capture the essence of the character?
Okay, so that was when I saw that question, because I was looking at some of the questions last night. I saw that question and was super excited because that is every time I was writing a song, that question popped in my mind each time I wrote it, because I'm like, man, this is a difficult character to capture. This must be the most difficult song I've ever written. And then I wrote the next song and I was like, no, this is the most difficult song I've ever written. But now looking back, I'd have to say that the most difficult to write and capture like the nature and essence of was really the second to last song that I wrote, and that was called A Hunt for the King. And the reason that was difficult is because it's the longest song on the album, but also I had to basically include like 5 or 6 character melodies in the song, because it's basically depicting a battle scene, but it's a multiple battle scene. So it's like we've got this big battle scene between the king and all these ground mites and evil people, and then we've got the hero Kerrigan and Alton, and they have to battle the Grey One, so one of the big villains of the story. And so to try and capture all these important points and to also get the right moves for both battles that are going on kind of simultaneously, it's very difficult. A lot of fun, but it took me about 3 weeks to write, which is definitely the longest it took for me to write any of the songs.
Well, I like that song. It's a really good one. You guys will like it.
Yeah.
Excited to hear it like with real instruments.
Oh yes, that'll be fun. The real instruments and the choir chanting evil words and voices and stuff. That's gonna be really fun. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about that because the choir will be presenting these spirits of the dead that follow the Grey One, the villain. So that's gonna be fun to kind of have that addition in
You
there.
can hit the emojis.
Yeah.
He seems so happy.
And
about
let's
it.
see, and I think I see Catherine wrote also in tandem with that, which song did you feel like came the most naturally?
Yeah.
And I'll answer Catherine's other question after this one. I felt like the song that came most naturally was actually The Wild Ride, which took me about 4 or 5 hours to write. And
Wow.
I know, it came like real fast. I was like, wow, this is great. I wish all the songs were like this.
That's my favorite one on the soundtrack so far. I mean, things might change after you have like real instruments, but I love that song. That's 4 or 5 hours. That's amazing.
Yeah, that came the most naturally, and it was fun, and I think part of it is because I was inspired by a few of the songs that I've been listening to at that point, and one of them was from Celtic women called The Call, and so I was inspired by the music from that, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the sound of running horses, and the sound of being called to something greater than you can even imagine, and the magic, and so it just had all the essence of the song I wanted to kind of capture. And so when I was like, okay, it's time to write The Wild Ride, I was like, okay, I know what melody I want to put in here, which the melody that shows up is actually the melody of Saccaridia, which is the land of the Green Rider. And so that's the main melody, because at this time, Kerrigan is being flown basically to and through the land of Saccaridia. So she's going to Saccar City, and she's on her way to kind of save the king in a way through the message that she's carrying. So yeah, so that was fun, and that was definitely the easiest one to write, and I still love that to this day.
That's a good one.
I just
Okay.
wanna squish the
Did you want to
baby.
answer Catherine's other question in the
Squish the
chat, or do you want to
baby.
go the stuff in the post
Like
and
I'm
then the
squishing
chat?
his cheeks right
Yeah,
now.
I'll do the chat real quick so they don't disappear. Let's see. So Catherine said, "What is there about Kerrigan that made you want to make her more than a hobby?" So as in writing this album, I'm guessing. Well, Kerrigan is a very compelling hero or heroine in the sense that she grows, which is more than I can say for some of the heroes and heroines that I've kind of read throughout the years. But Kerrigan is imperfect and has consequences, and I actually really enjoy reading about those. But also, she's just likable. She's a real character. She's spunky, which is always fun to read. She's kind and strong at the same time, and I think that that's something that kind of gets isn't as represented in when there's a hero, is you don't think about them as being like kind and compassionate in the same way that Kerrigan is. She's very thoughtful, and she doesn't have much of an ego, which is also very impressive for a heroine. So she was kind of someone who I could really like a lot. Like if I met her in person, I would like her a lot. So, but as for what inspired me to write this album, I was actually, had become a mother about 2.5 years ago with my first daughter, and had kind of lost myself, if that makes sense. Lost kind of who I was as an individual, because I only became my daughter Beverly. I became her mother, and that was my identity at that time. And so I was kind of trying to find myself, and I had decided to pick up and reread the Green Rider series, and I had a friend who had also never read fantasy before, and I wanted to introduce her to one of my favorite series growing up as a girl, and that was the Green Rider. And so when I reread this series, like I had so much passion re-enlightened in me, and this fire ignited, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm like excited about life again. I feel like I'm going on adventures, kind of living vicariously through Kerrigan. And, some of the things that she goes through or suffers through, though I couldn't directly relate to it, I felt like I went through it with her, and it kind of brought me out to be a much better person. And I know that people who've read the Green Rider series have had their own experiences with that, feeling like they've become kind of a more interesting or better person as a result of reading this series. And so one night I went down to sleep, and I heard the theme of Saccaridia playing in my mind. And as a composer, I don't usually get melodies in my mind like that easily. So when I heard that melody, I was like, okay, I got to take advantage of this right now. I know exactly where it's coming from. And so I quickly pulled up my phone and hummed it into my phone and went to sleep. And the next day I decided to get to work and thought of making this book soundtrack. So that's a long answer to your question, but I hope it's interesting.
Oh, I think everyone likes to hear that, like, there's times in our lives where we start to feel lost and, like, don't know what we're doing, and sometimes, like, reading our favorite book can help us reignite our passion and figure out who we are. So I think it's very relatable.
Yeah, I hope so. I like it when I hear other people talk about their lives in more realistic terms, because I think that it kind of brings us all together.
Yeah.
But do you want to answer this next question from Laura Quinn?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys see in the chat, Laura and Quinn asked, if this album goes well, do you think you'll do some for the other books? So I think, first of all, I think the album has done exceptionally well. Like, we raised over 3 times what we needed to raise minimum. And that's, to me, that means we did exceptionally well. I've been like doing little victory dances, and anytime I tell anyone about the project, they're like, "Whoa, you raised like $100,000 for a book soundtrack? That's amazing." So as for whether or not we'll do some for the other books, Christine and I have like mentioned it. We've kind of talked about it. But at the same time, this was a huge project for both of us. I mean, Christine is a full-time mom, and I have a full-time job. And so, I mean, we've literally been working a full-time job on top of full-time jobs. So our plans for the next few months is to take a little break. But it's not out of the question, I don't think. It is something that we would need to discuss with Kristen and her